Good afternoon. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We have a great 60 minutes lined up for you. Before we get started, I do want to remind everyone that this is being recorded and will be made available on our community.franchise.org site later today. As well, if you have any questions for our speakers today, please put it into the questions box. All right, so our content today is brought to you by Netsertive, and the topic is marketing a franchise brand through the labor shortage in 2022. And for our speakers today, we have Jennie Wolff, CMO with Sola Salon Studios, Shelley Kanther, VP of Marketing for Griswold Home Care, Marianne Murphy, VP of Brand Experience with Floor Coverings International, and Maddi Park, Director of Marketing with Netsertive, again, our sponsor today. So I'm going to kick it over to Maddi to get us into everything. Maddi?
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us, and a special thanks to our panelists for doing this. I know a webinar on a Wednesday is not the most exciting thing, but I promise you should be able to get some good tips and tricks out of this, especially since it is such a hot topic right now. So a little bit about Netsertive, as we're the sponsor, got to do my spiel. We've got 12 years in the marketing and franchise multi-unit world. We specialize in localized marketing, especially for franchisees, and recently expanded to FranDev, which we're super excited to announce. We do this all through our proprietary software that optimizes and executes all the campaigns within itself. And on top of that, we have award-winning account customer service. Each franchisee has their own account manager, as well as every home office has their own partner as well. So really making sure that the marketing is working every day. We specialize in search, display, CTV, video, landing pages, microsites, basically anything that you can put money into to get leads, we do. So if you have any questions, you can visit us at netsertive.com. So that is my little spiel about us. But myself, I am a multi-unit franchise owner. Previously, I was a franchise director, marketing director at a umbrella brand, and so now I'm with Netsertive. And my goal here with this webinar, and as a role in Netsertive, is to really bring our franchise community together. I think the people that market and franchising are heroes, and our goal is to really just start educating and bringing this network closer together. So glad you guys can all be a part of that. All right, so we are just going to get right into it, marketing a franchise brand through labor shortages. So the breakdown, first and foremost, is finding solutions. Who we have on with Griswold Home Care, Floor Coverings International, and Sola Salons, we have a nice kind of expansive experience here. We are going to start with Jennie Wolff from Sola Salons. She actually, and her brand, experienced quite the opposite here. They don't have employees. They have independent salon owners that work within their brand. So through and I'll let her speak to this, but through the pandemic, they actually saw an influx of those more independent owners and saw more of the brand kind of labor shortage from the home office side. So before we get into kind of what everyone else's experience, I would love to hear from Jennie what her experience was, and kind of how it came as a positive for her brand. I'm sure they're not the only ones in the industry that kind of saw this influx as well. So Jennie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Maddi. It's interesting because I think that we have different facets to our brand, different areas of our day-to-day operations that this, of course, can impact. We are a low employee model in terms of management of our locations. Typically, our multi-unit operators will have one manager that's taking care of multiple locations, and we don't have any on-site employees. But what Sola does is we lease studio spaces that are move-in ready to independent hairdressers and beauty professionals who want to own their own businesses. So we have seen, since March of 2020, obviously through all the salon closures, lots of traditional salons in the beauty industry that closed. So people who may not have ever thought of going independent before are now finding themselves looking for independent space, either because A, their salon closed and they need a place to work, or B, consumer demand has changed and people are looking for more intimate environments to get their hair done because it just feels safer. So we've seen an influx of people who may never thought of going independent. We also are seeing more and more students who are coming out of cosmetology school and wanting to go straight to independent, which was never the case before. So when I joined the brand 8 years ago, we really had a different, if somebody asked me who our target stylist was, they were in a different age bracket. They were in a different place in their career. They already had an established book of business. We're seeing more and more early stage career stylists wanting to go independent. So we are looking at a more proper onboarding experience and more education for them to help them, because we're an industry of artists, not entrepreneurs, and while all small business requires that entrepreneurial skills and spirit. On the operation side and on the marketing side, I'll speak to the marketing side actually. While my team has remained intact, throughout COVID, we did have to cut most of our freelance resources loose. We weren't able to do a lot of graphic design, and we had to do a lot of things in-house that we were used to outsourcing, for maybe 3-4 months. And when it came time to getting those resources back, it's incredibly difficult right now to find really great graphic designers. Prices have increased. I know that agencies that we work with have had a hard time also finding great creatives. So I know that there's a shortage there that has definitely been impacting our marketing team.
Yeah, and that's such a good point, is that while a lot of brands may position themselves as, oh, we grew through the pandemic, we did fine, they're feeling it elsewhere. Like you said, now it's, being able to provide the marketing operations for all of your salon owners is the difficulty there on a higher level. Shelley and Marianne, how has this affected your brand and at the franchisor and franchisee level? Because you guys are more on the employee side of things. So Marianne, I'll let you go first and kind of explain your experience and what you're seeing now.
Yeah, so and we're actively hiring, so as everybody is. So yeah, it's a challenge. It is a challenge for us. We're very, very grateful. It's keeping up with market conditions, right? So can we pull in the back end support to harness what's actually going on? Our franchise development team is doing an amazing job out there. Our franchise growth has been exceptional throughout all of this. We're very grateful for that. We're lucky enough to be in home improvement. So on the back end, as the franchisor, is making sure that we have the right team in place to harness the opportunity. Home improvement is right now it's an explosive industry moving forward. So there's supply chain issues and challenges there, but just putting the right people in place to continue to ride this wave, if you will. In everybody staying home, so how are we marketing to them in their homes and those types of things. So making sure that we have the staff and the ability to really capitalize on this market and serve as many people as we can and experience the growth that we want to experience. But I think one of the things that has benefited us, because we were very fortunate to not lose some people along the way. I think part of it was the flexibility that we built into the people we had on our team, whether they were contractors or other. So, and building that culture. So I like to think, and they've told us that we built a culture that people wanted to come back to. So, the people we partnered with became an extension of our own culture. So we've had good fortune in being able to do that and then build off of that. So, and yes, Jenny's right. People are able to command more. But I also think that people are rising to the level of deserving that. So I think that they're really, doing exceptional work. That's been our experience. But I think that cultural thing that we built pre-pandemic has helped us come out of it more intact than most. And we still hire to culture, all of those types of things. And it is a place that people want to bring their skills and, move us forward.
So Mary, you mentioned culture, and I know that that's a big piece now, especially for everyone corporate included, working from home, and how are we building that culture? What are some ways that you built the culture, and what would you say to people who say, great, yeah, ideally your culture can be awesome if you're bringing on the correct people. Right now, we can't afford to be super picky with how we're bringing on. So how can we sort out culture that way, or at least, continue to emanate it with, a broader range of personalities and people?
Well, I think one of the things is, I'll make a counterpoint, is I think that we can be picky, and I think we always need to be picky because it's a direct reflection of what we're putting out in the universe. So the worst thing that happens is that we're not picky and we don't do what we need to do to vet people in, and it harms us somewhere in our pipeline, whether it's a service provider that is not delivering in accordance with what they said. It's like, well, I grabbed what I could, but now it's created a chain of mess that then has to be cleaned up, because then you lose credibility. So I think that to a certain extent, you can be picky, but I also think that there's a dig down deep to the extent that you can, and I know everybody on the planet is exhausted from everything that we've all been through, is because of culture. I think I've experienced that people are digging a little bit deeper to help ride this out. So they're maybe putting in a couple extra hours, or they're doing what they need to do, or collaborating somewhere, or recycling. It's like, all right, I can't get you fresh, but I can take this and I can refresh it and recycle it. Let's put it out there. So doing what we need to do. So I think people are digging down deeper to accommodate, because nobody wants their reputation harmed anywhere in their pipeline. And I think regardless, we still do need to be picky on who we bring in, because it can demoralize your team. So if it's not a good fit, it's your internal team that knows that the most, and they know it the fastest. And it can be a detriment. It can be toxic, because you just are not putting out the level and the quality of what you've built your brand and your reputation on.
I love that.
So you may have to pay more for it.
Yeah, I love that. And then I know some people are probably like, no, I can't be picky. I have no people. But the truth is, and this is stated, very simply from what you said, Marianne, is you have to protect your brand over business. And I say that in a way of, you can't just hire, like you said, anyone because you want to match the new business you're bringing on, or preventing scale back, because at the end of the day, the brand is your longevity. Once you ruin that, you're ruining your reputation and the ability for you to continue growing after the pandemic. So thank you, Marianne. Shelley, what about you in the home care services? Obviously you guys got hit extremely hard from, franchisor all the way to your clientele. What is your experience here, and what are your kind of suggestions in terms of, broad overview, what you're seeing in terms of obstacles?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, Maddi. So when you're thinking about home care, you have to understand that our labor force are caregivers, and no time in recent history have caregivers been more important than now, and that we've really put a spotlight on their importance throughout this pandemic. And so when the pandemic started, it was really, a lot of uncertainty. Obviously, people didn't know how the virus was spread, what were the protocols that we were going to use going into people's homes. And you also have to keep in mind that the population that we're serving is almost, wholly a very vulnerable population, the elderly, seniors that need help in their home. And so, recruitment, caregiver recruitment and retention has been a focus for us for a long time, but it is truly a big initiative for us now. So our marketing really had to shift in focus, whereas we always did have a focus on caregiver recruitment and retention. It became a huge part of what we were trying to market for, is to recruit those caregivers to be in the homes with elderly who need that help on a day-to-day basis. And as we saw the facilities like nursing homes and senior living facilities getting hit very, very hard by by the pandemic. People were actually turning to home care more because you were having that one dedicated person or just a few dedicated people coming to take care of that loved one, and was therefore safer. And so we still see that, and so the need for care in the home has continued to grow and skyrocket, actually. But the caregivers shortage is a real thing. So we really had to pivot and focus on that with our marketing. Of course, our franchisees are doing whatever they can to make the job as attractive as possible for the right kind of people. You have to have a caring heart. You have to have that empathy. You can't just, speaking about making sure that you have the right people to uplift the brand in the way that you want. It's super important for us. And so, the hourly wages, we're paying really well, more meaningful and comprehensive benefits and things like that. Providing sign-on bonuses, all of those kinds of things. And then you have vaccine mandates coming into play. So then that further sort of cannibalizes the pool of people. It's just a real challenge, but we've really, as I said, took a hard turn to really focus on recruitment and retention. We took some really important measures at the beginning of the year and into the spring, where we did some sort of 5-part email series where it was 5 ways to improve your caregiver recruitment now. They included video. We did webinars and work groups for our franchisees throughout the summer on how to optimize their efforts. And in the meantime, while that was going on, we created a really special caregiver campaign called Care With Us. And what we did was we took actual caregivers from all around the region. We are a national brand, but we pulled from the several states that are around our headquarters in Philadelphia, and we went up to a production studio and just sat with these caregivers one by one and interviewed them about their job and what they love about it and why they do what they do. And then we took all of those great, very touching and heartfelt the video that we got, and we edited it down to a long form video, social clips. We did some display ads that pulled out quotes, of course, social media posts, email blasts, all of these things, all of the assets that you could make, and made those available to our franchisees and in a way and explained to them and helped them implement them. But we also ran an nationwide connected TV campaign. So we created a 30-second spot, and around each of our locations, we were able to fund that campaign for our franchisees that led to a dedicated caregiver Care With Us landing page. And we've just gotten some really great traction from that. So I think, the real takeaway from this is letting your real people talk. And real people's stories are so compelling. I mean, everyone in marketing, knows that, but we really just focused on that and tried to have the people doing the job telling others why they should want to do the job and why it's so rewarding. So that's kind of what we did. Another thing that we've been working on real quick throughout the summer that's going to be launched at our conference coming up at the end of October is our recruitment and retention best practices toolkit. And it's been in partnership with our operations team and our learning and development team. And so it's really been a thorough undertaking where we are basing our suggestions and our best practices and all of our learnings on a lot of data and analysis, and making sure that we're really are basing everything on tests and a lot of what we found to be true. And so we're really excited about that. And we've also focused on caregivers through our Jean Griswold Foundation, which we've pivoted, which used to actually focus on helping nonprofits that helped seniors. Now we completely changed the mission, and we are focusing on caregivers. We are providing educational opportunities, scholarships, and hardship grants for caregivers, not just Griswold home care caregivers, but caregivers across the country, and really giving back to them and providing resources that they might need. So I was a little bit long-winded, but we've really, grabbed onto this idea of making our caregivers feel valuable and, lifting them up and hoping others will see the value in this type of a career.
No, thank you, Shelley. I think that that was very informative and very helpful. I think the idea, and I was actually talking to my team about this earlier because we're redoing our website, and people and brands are always saying, well, what's your story? What's your story? Tell your story. Sometimes your story is your people's stories. So in your case, your caregiver stories and your owner stories, and that's okay. That's all part of your network. So utilizing it. So just for everyone joining, in case you were a little bit late, we're going to go on to the next slide. But overall, our top tips for breaking it down and finding the solutions. Sometimes you got to take things internal if you can't afford or you're struggling to find, for instance, what Jennie said, graphic designers, you have to take those in-house, and unfortunately that might be putting more of a burden on your employees. But I think that is the first step, and don't just not do it or wait until you find the right person. Continue to find ways to keep those things going, and maybe weave those into new tasks into people's day-to-day operations. From what Marianne has said is keep your culture. Your culture is important, even if that means turning down new business or having to shrink. Keep the right people on, protect your brand, and to her point, people want to do good work. There are people out there that want to work and that can still benefit your brand. And then what Shelley touched on is having a campaign focused around employees. I mean, for a long time, I think employee recruitment and retention is its own kind of vertical, probably never got as much attention as brand dev or consumer marketing goes, but now it's time for it to take the limelight, and really focusing on that both internal and externally in your brands, and finding creative solutions around that, such as you said about your nonprofit and doing all sorts of your care campaign. Don't be afraid to get creative with it. I think I drove by a yard sign the other day that said Burger King's offering a $1,500 signing bonus. If you can figure that out, that's great, but I applaud them for even putting a yard sign out. So there are things that are affordable, that are, just, get with your team, and more minds together are going to get you some great solutions. So thank you, guys. We're going to move on to the next question, is kind of stalling the stall. So touched on this a little bit before, but how do you keep growing, especially for brands that are having to turn down new business due to labor shortages? What are some ways that they continue to get their name out there, despite the fact that they might not be able to bring on new clients? So Jennie, we're going to start with you because again, you're on the other side of it, with your independent salon owners, and are you having to turn down new franchisees or pull back on ops that support them because you're struggling to find good people for your marketing and graphic design? How is that working for you guys?
No, we have not had to turn down any new business in any way. One thing to add on the graphic design, we've gotten really creative, and my team has stepped in, and there are so many tools that are out there like Canva, which makes a non-graphic designer give them the abilities to create images and make really beautiful designs. For me, when I think about this question, while it might not impact exactly what I'm doing at Sola, and we have a really strong team right now, I think about our stylists and the kind of demand that they're feeling in their businesses, because so many people, they're still getting their hair done, and beauty services are often a retention-proof or a recession-proof services, because everyone still is going to the salon. We always tell our stylists, when they get to the point where they're turning down business, it's time to raise their prices. So, it's all about supply and demand. So that would be my input on this kind of question, to continue growing in different ways, to get creative and looking at the other way to grow your business, because it's not just always about new clients. It's about, servicing the clients that you already have and raising your prices if that's, an option for you.
I love that, Jennie. Thank you. And it's a really good callback. I was asking my husband, he owns a bunch of service brands, and I said, oh, I'm doing this webinar, do you have any suggestions? Because one of his brands is home cleaning and really struggling to find cleaners. And he said very short and simple, cut the clients that are pains in the ass and raise your prices, because you got to take care of your employees. You know, nobody wants to deal with a squeaky wheel, so don't be afraid to cut the ones that you don't want to deal with. And again, raising your prices, because those good clients are going to stick, and then in turn you'll be able to also raise your wages. So very good point there. Marianne, to you, what's your advice here?
Well, I think, and it depends, right? If you need your house cleaned, that's, you need your house cleaned.
Right.
And again, get rid of the squeaky people, right? All that kind of stuff. But I think in our business, which is a service business, in instances other than an emergency instance, give people a reason to wait for you, right? So we're just like everybody else in home improvement. There's supply chain issues. There's, we all read about, the boats off the coast of California. Everybody's waiting for things to come in, and that's impacted our industry as well. So there's two things that we do is we make sure that our customers are aware of things that are at the ready. We've worked with our vendors who have been exceptional in keeping us abreast of those products that are readily available and making sure we pipe that down through our system. So it's almost a marketing to our own system on what's available. And, so how for people who are ready to move, need to get their project done immediately, we have selections for them. But for other people who are not in such a rush, giving them a reason via brand, culture, reputation, et cetera, to wait for you and say, you know what, rather than rush into something you don't want, here's a reason by reputation that they may wait. Certainly we don't stop with the marketing. We want to make sure, because we want to make sure that we are grabbing those people who are ready to move their projects forward. And yeah, there are price increases. And if you want to get the best talent, especially in the installation world, very competitive. We're going to tell our customers, there's going to be complete transparency. It's like, I'm bringing the best into your home, and it's going to cost a little more. And they appreciate that. They appreciate that because they get to make the decision on how they want to roll, right? And what they want to do. So I think keeping your reputation intact, as we talked about that, giving people a reason to wait for you when they can, and then making sure that people who need to move quickly, that you are prepared with what it is that you can do to help them in that situation. As far as, what products are available, giving them those options, et cetera.
Very, very good point. I like that, recognizing your value, and in a way, spinning a con to a pro. Everyone has having supply chain issues now, so you can rush and, do what you want there, or you can wait and really get what you want. So I like that kind of glass is half full and marketing that way. We do have a question from Charles Stewart. What if raising your prices could prevent clients from starting business with you in the first place? How can you pivot to prevent burnout among your team there? So I'll open that up to anyone who wants to speak to that.
Well, what we always educate our small business owners on is that what you're looking for is a client that values your services at the level that you need to value your own services. So while we know that when they raise their prices, they often lose clients, and we call that shedding. They're shedding clients. They're creating space for the clients that do value those services. So I can imagine that if you're in such demand that you can't bring on new business, that if you were to raise your prices, you'd be able to fill that funnel with people who do have that value or that sense of urgency of getting those services done.
Yeah, and that's a good.
And I'll concur with that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Maddi.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll concur with that. Especially like right now, we're in, and again, I hate to beat the dead horse, but the horse is still, this COVID thing is still hanging over us. And there have been a lot of people who have, again, scrambling. There's a level of exhaustion. And when self-care is impacted, right, and you have your franchisees who are running 24/7 to get things done, and, they're just burning themselves out, as you say, they're not charging enough. Right? So you do need to raise your fees to get rid of those squeaky wheels so that you can provide the level of service that you are promising. You always have to go back to brand, to reputation, to what you're promising. And the minute that you can't deliver on it, you're spread yourself too thin, and you may need to raise your prices. And that's it. Just slow down to advance. So you're running around less. You might have similar profitability on the bottom line, and you're almost in this situation is repositioning yourself to have a stronger business coming out. You're looking at your P&Ls, you're looking at everything on the cost of doing business, and you're going to work smarter. You're going to work hard, without a doubt. Everybody's working hard, but you're going to work a little bit smarter. You're still going to reap the benefits of it, and you're going to be able to deliver the way that you promised. And I think that's very much key.
That's great, guys. I think that answers that question very well. And I also feel like I should have recorded that, and it's just like a motivational speech to me every morning. Might make me work better, work smarter. So Shelley, I'll go ahead to you on this question. In terms of, having to turn down business, how are you guys continuing to market and make sure that your brand is still getting out there, being recognized, even despite, the labor shortages?
Sure. I mean, when you think about home care, it's not the type of service that you or product that you can say, I'm thinking about buying some home care. I'm going to research around for months. People are usually coming to you for an emergent nature. Their mother, their father has fallen. They are coming out of a rehab facility. They need help and they need it tomorrow. So it's really tough when we have this caregiver shortage and to be able to tell someone, sorry, we don't have anyone to help your mother or your father or your loved one. And at the same time, we don't want to just hire anyone to come do that, because one of our mantras is don't want to hire anyone that we wouldn't want to care for our own mother. So it's a really fine line there. And so when we look at how we can keep growing, again, it's just about finding more caregivers. And that's why we're really focusing on finding more caregivers. That's the only way we're going to be able to grow in our business. And so, growing the relationship with caregivers that we currently do employ, increasing their hours if they're open to it, ensuring they are content, making sure that they have good benefits and good hourly wage, that they're happy, keep them engaged in the brand, don't let them get recruited away, because it is super competitive in our industry and in many other industries as well. We also reach out to formerly employed caregivers. So same with any business. If you have someone that was formerly employed by you and they left for another brand for some reason, circle back to them. Maybe something has changed. Maybe there's a life change. Their kids are out of the house now and they can work more hours, or, they just haven't thought to come back to you. So reach out to those same folks. Talk to your current employment force. We talk to our caregivers, see if they have any friends or family that they think would be good at this job too. There are really a great source of quality people. So, talk to your current employees. And then we encourage our franchisees to really make sure they're taking advantage of all the resources that we are providing from a marketing standpoint here at the home office and sending out to them. So, making sure that they are taking advantage of the Care With Us campaign and using that, implementing the toolkit, which has so many amazing facets to it, from like specific wording for job ads that we've measured have done better, to all kinds of ways to make interviews go more smoothly, more quickly, all of those kinds of things. It's that there is no shortcut. There's no like, everybody's looking for that, oh, if I do this, all these people are going to come work for us and, I'll just advertise in this way. No, there's a lot of things that you have to do, and you have to just do that hard work and get in there and just put those processes in place. Use what your home office is providing for you from a marketing standpoint and support standpoint. And then, look back at referrals from current caregivers, formerly employed caregivers that you currently do employ, to try to find more workforce to keep your brand going.
That's really great, Shelley. Thank you. And I think, overall in this question, before I move on to the next one, is that it really, really comes down to recognizing your value. So for Jennie, when she's talking about her independent salon owners, all the way down to, Shelley talking about, the network of her caregivers, is recognizing your value, whether it's having to raise your price, spinning what might be a negative in terms of, material shortage to, no, we're worth waiting for, or, to Shelley's point, is the retention aspect of it is where do you see your brand now in terms of the value it's providing people, and where do you want it to go? So sometimes that doesn't always, put a price tag on that in terms of, like, to Marianne's point, your bottom line. We're working smarter to get there. So a couple key aspects or key takeaways from here is, utilizing platforms that are out there to help. I've heard Canva and Canva Enterprise presented to me over and over and over again. And, there's something to it. People are talking, and definitely, checking that out if you're struggling with email or franchisee communication. There's platforms out there to help, and a lot of things are more affordable than they may have been in the past or than you realize. I know Shelley mentioned CTV. That's something that Netsertive does, and in my role previous to there, I used to think that connected TV ads were way out of our budget. And in reality, they're not. So I definitely recommend people looking into platforms that are made to support you. There's no shame in asking for help and using that. Again, like I said, getting creative and spinning what could be, what people could sit in as a negative is, oh, we're not going to get the materials in time, and just telling clients that. No, it's, what's a way that you can phrase that better? Really looking at your marketing pieces and making sure that they are emphasizing what you need them to emphasize. And then again, to Shelley's point, is reaching out, keeping your focus. Don't just say, oh, we sent out a direct mailer for, new clients and it didn't work. Nope, keep pushing on it, keep the focus, communicate, utilize your network. That's why we're in franchising. We have a huge network. And eventually you're going to see the tides turn. So I think that's really great. So moving on to kind of our last piece here is, don't just wait and hope. So how can you be proactive? And I mean this in a way of, COVID isn't gone. There's a Delta, who knows, with the mandates and the masks. We can't just wait for it to be done, because clearly it's going on. So how can we weave labor shortages or these setbacks with employees, or, to Jennie's point, independent salon owners? How can we weave this into our planning and brand building for the foreseeable future? So, how are we going to coach? How are we going to run businesses and have to assume that this is an obstacle we are going to see, in the next year to, couple years in the future? I'm going to kind of leave this open to whoever wants to take it first. It's a very heavy question. So who's ever ready to tackle it, go right ahead.
I'll go.
Go ahead if you want. Sure.
Go ahead, Shelley.
All right, thanks, Marianne. Well, I've already mentioned a lot of the significant steps that we've taken to make caregivers sort of the cornerstone of our brand at this point. We just feel it's that important. Our founder, Dr. Jean Griswold, almost 40 years ago, part of her whole purpose was to create quality jobs for people who wanted to do important work in their community. So, caregivers, again, are our employees. So insert employees when I'm talking about caregivers. But I feel that as franchisors, it's really no longer good enough to just pay a little above minimum wage and put out a job ad. That's obviously not working. People have reflected on their lives throughout this pandemic. They want more out of their lives. They want to do something either meaningful or earn more so they can do more things that they want to do in their time outside of work. And so they want a living wage. They want benefits. They want work-life balance. They want that companies that make the investment into their workforce, I believe, in these hard times, but also when things start to get better, you'll be more successful in the long term. So we're working hard to do all of those things: better benefits, better wages, but also those educational resources, those scholarships, the financial assistance through the Jean Griswold Foundation, and really publicizing that and using PR as a way to get all of that information out there, not just paid media, but telling the good stories and the wins and how you're out in your community. We're really getting back to our roots and refocusing on that culture of gratitude. We have a respect for our caregivers, a respect for your employees is really important. I think, we as employers, as franchisors, we need to do that, plan our recruitment and retention efforts around that culture of gratitude for the work that people are doing for us. not just in our ad campaigns, not just in our social media. Hey, thank you for your hard work. Oh, our website's showing all these great pictures of caregivers being happy and no, through our actions, through our in the wages, benefits, and perks, and in the publicity that we do around those things, so that people understand that it's baked into the brand. And I think that that's what's really going to make a difference for us in the future.
That's really great, Shelley. So basically you're telling everyone, don't just talk the talk, you gotta walk the walk. I like it. Probably easier said than done, but yeah, planning investments for the long term. I think, not investments that aren't just going to solve the immediate, oh, we need more employees, but how do we keep our employees? How do we keep the good ones and continue that pipeline? So thank you for that. Marianne, your turn, girl.
Well, yeah, it's kind of going to be hard to build off of what Shelley said, but it's true. And you mentioned it like earlier in this call. And I think when you're in the lifeboat, it's like you immediately look at who are the people that are around you. And the team at Griswold took the time to not only invest in but elevate their people. And when you elevate your people, it lifts your entire organization. And that's really, really key, because everybody is working so hard that lift, those small lifts are the biggest wins. So investing in and elevating your people. Second is investing in your marketing programs. Take a good inventory. You don't want to cut back, but you want to make sure that you invest in the things that are working, because this isn't going to last forever. Things are going to change, right? And you still need to invest in those. And then as a franchise, we're all franchises or contractors. It's make sure that as a franchisor or a corporate entity, you want to be investing in resources for the people you're serving, but the people being served, our franchisees, our consultants, et cetera, use your resources, smooth out the wrinkles, and let the systems work for you. Because we know it's like, well, I want to do it my way. Okay. Let the systems work for you so that you can go out and deliver wholeheartedly and deliver on your promise and really focus on the people. If the systems are working for you, let them work for you. Lean on each other. Let people do what's in their lane, and then elevate the people to do their very, very best work out there. And that's going to make people want to come to work with you, right? They're going to want, it's like, this is really a place I want to work. It's a place I want to be, and it's a place I want to bring my friends. And that's kind of key.
Yeah, Marianne, what you just said about people wanting to be at work, I say this to my team all the time. I don't set their alarm and make them wake up in the morning. I don't make them show up and get on Slack first thing and start working on their projects. They have to feel passionate about it. They have to feel ownership. Empowerment is really big for us. I want to empower them to really care and to, really feel ownership in their work. And especially with a younger generation, I have a very young marketing team. And I think about where I was when I was in my early 20s. I would ask for time off and my boss would say no. And I would ask if I could have a weekend off and they would say no. And I was working a lot, and the culture has really shifted. Younger generation, especially after coming through COVID, they expect work-life balance, and we really don't even call it balance. We call it rhythm. We have implemented a 980 work policy, which gives everyone on the team that wants to do longer 9-hour work days every other Friday off. That has been huge. My team really, they work so hard during the week. They don't stop at 9 hours. It could be longer days if they have stuff to do, but every other Friday they are, we're in Colorado, so they're up in the mountains, they're off there on going to see their friends, seeing their family, and they know that they have that time built in. So that has been a huge value add for this younger generation as well. And I also love what you said earlier, Marianne, about building culture. I mean, that's what we do with our hairdressers. We bring them into a culture. We bring them as close to the heart of the brand as we possibly can. And, we are making sure that they know that we live by our values and that our values align with theirs. And I think that now more than ever, people are looking to do business with brands that align with their values.
I think that's really great. And so as we, as the question states, weaving this kind of labor shortage into your planning, it's look at who's around you now and how can we invest in them to then have them invest, in the brand. I think that's super important. These are the people you've already chosen. let's not leave them by the wayside, because I have heard, you know, problems with employment where they're like, oh, well, we're raising wages, we're giving tuition assistance, and that's all to new employees, and the current employees are like, what the hell, dude? Like, what about me? So I think that that's, you know, a super important way to not only invest in your culture, but utilizing it. And we are coming up on question and answer time. So I just want to kind of go over a recap of our last question. So like we just said, you know, invest in your resources, whether those are your people, whether those are your systems. As Marianne said, you're in a franchise, lean on your processes. They've been working, they're still going to work. Utilize those so you can work on the business and not in the business. And then, like I said, look who's around you, elevate your culture. Don't just show that you have value. Yeah, you can have pancake breakfasts and you can provide days off here and there, but they want to feel it. So if you're going to do it and do it well. It'll provide for your brand in the long term. And then lastly, it's, you know, listen to the people around you. I think it's a super simple thing to say and an easy thing for people to yeah, sure, okay, but no, really listen to what they want. To Jennie's point, they work long hours, so giving them an extra day off, that's, you know, and so important to those, and they're going to feel value, and just, you know, empowering them in terms of the roles that they're in and what they want to do. So I appreciate you guys. The fact that you guys were able to succinctly answer all of these very difficult questions while you're dealing with yourself is, you know, speaks to the level of, you know, expertise and professionalism you guys bring to our industry. I am going to open it up now to, do we have any more questions that people want to put in the chat? Don't leave me stranded here. We just did so well that no one has any questions. I will give it a couple more minutes, and then if we don't, I'll pass it back to Caitlin. Yeah.
It's been a real pleasure being on this with you, Marianne and Jennie, and seeing your perspectives, because you know, it's such a different side of things than home care. And I hope that you felt the same, that you got some value out of it. You know, 3 different types of businesses, but we do have a lot of commonalities of tactics and methods to work through this challenging time. So it was great to hear what you had to say.
Yes,
I think we all need to get together for a drink or something.
Yeah, Shelley, what you just did with your Care With Us campaign with bringing in, we just actually did our shoot. We call it the Faces of Sola. We bring hairdressers and beauty professionals in from all over the country. And, you know, it had been since we hosted our last Faces of Sola event, March 1st to the 4th of 2020.
Wow.
And we shot for all the wrong campaigns, let me tell you. But so much of what they said just naturally lended itself to what we really needed through COVID. And then these stylists actually really stepped up, and they opened themselves up as mentors to the rest of our community. We have over 17,000 hairdressers at Sola. And so when all the salons were closed, they really needed those mentors and people to connect with. And we just hosted our newest Faces of Sola group in town 2 weeks ago. It was very similar to the last one, but I had 90 COVID tests in my back pocket. So, but yes, putting real voices to the stories, I think, is key.
Yeah, that's really great, guys, and thank you. And what I will say is, when I was in franchise marketing and I worked at Made Pro, I was so scared to call another brand and be like, oh, they're gonna get mad at me, they're not gonna talk to me. No, if I do one thing in my role here at Netsertive is to bring these franchise marketers, I should say, together. So if you have more specific questions, reach out to us. Jennie, Marianne, Shelley, we all connected via like a phone call, a Zoom call. And now, you know, I'd probably call Shelley and be like, my kid's annoying, can you please come take him? So don't be afraid to reach out to our fellow marketers and franchising. We're awesome. We know we're awesome. We know you're awesome. And, you know, we're in this together, from national branding all the way down to, you know, new owners and our owners' employees. As we get the spectrum, and, you know, we're here to help one another. There's plenty for everyone in this world right now. So thank you guys again. If you want to learn more about Netsertive, head over to netsertive.com/IFA. We'll have the recording there if you want to listen to that. And then also we can help with all things marketing. Caitlin,
Thank you, Maddi.
Awesome. Thank you guys so very much. And for everyone who attended today, thank you so much for investing in your future education, which can only help us all in the franchising community. So I quote, I want to emphasize what Maddi just said. This whole community is about sharing practices. If one's better, everybody's better. So I really appreciate what you guys have said, you guys sharing your tips, tricks, and everything that you guys are going through as well. So like Maddi said, this is recorded and will be made available to everybody later this afternoon. And Maddi, Marianne, Jennie, Shelley, thank you all again so much. Netsertive, thank you for your constant support of IFA. And everybody stay safe and healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.